Hi, my name is Bonnie Barker. I'm with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and I'm really excited today to show you a new pattern. This is the Cascade Yarns cabled cherub baby blanket. You can find this pattern both on the CascadeYarns.com website if you look under their free patterns that they have promoting their yarns, or if you go to my website at BonnieBayCrochet.com and look under patterns and scroll down, you'll see some of the free patterns that are available on my site. And most of these are in connection with a yarn company of some sort. And this one I'm really excited to share with you. I wanted to show you the pattern on this. It features several cabling motifs. It features 4-post cabling, wheat cabling. There's also the honeycomb. And the instructions that you're going to hear, we'll walk you through these, but if you need more detailed instruction on each of these stitches, I encourage you to look at some of the other videos that I have, both on YouTube and on my site. It'll give you detailed instruction for each one. But if you go to, like I said, if you go to the websites I mentioned, you can get the written pattern for free. Download that, and you're going to need that in order to complete this pattern. Also, I just wanted to show you, it also has a shell with the picot edging. And as I handle this blanket, I want you just to see the drape that this kind of yarn embodies. It's a really nice yarn. It's a blend of nylon and acrylic yarns, and it was a real joy for me to work with. So anyway, let's get started. Now I want to show you a short tutorial on some of the stitches included in the Cascade Yarns cabled cherub baby blanket. Oh, that's a mouthful. Anyway, for this pattern, I would just suggest you print off, a copy of this, which you can get from the Cascade Yarns website. The pattern is free. I'd recommend printing out a copy and just checking off, the rows as you complete them. We're going to start with a chain of 139. I'm using a crochet hook, which is size G. The gauge is not so important on this, but you will want to check your gauge according to the pattern anyway, just to make sure you're going to have enough yarn. Okay, so to begin with, you're going to chain 139. I have just a small chain here to just do a sampling of the stitches. And when you do the chain, I will let you know that you're going to want to do this kind of loosely, not ridiculously loosely, but you don't want it to be real tight so that your afghan pulls at one end or is somewhat shorter or tighter. Okay, I'm going to begin by crocheting and double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3. This is my 4th chain from the hook. And it's just going to be simply double crocheting all the way across. Okay, so when you finish this row, you should have 136 double crochets. So rather than bore you with that, why don't you go ahead and do those 136 double crochets, hit pause, and then come on back. Okay, now before I show you the specific stitches that we're going to be doing, I want to kind of cast a vision for where we're going. Just reminds me of one of my favorite proverbs in the Bible. It says, without a vision, a people perish. So I got to give you a vision for where we're headed with this. It'll help, I think, make the process a lot easier. Okay, we're going to start off with 2 double crochets on the end. Now let me show you what I'm doing here on the edge here. It might be a little unconventional for some of you seasoned crocheters. I am using the first stitch of the row. I'm not skipping it because I don't want to have a gaping hole here. When I finish this blanket, as I'll show you further on into the video, I'm going to be adding an edging of single crochet and then a shell with a picot stitch. And when I do that, I want to have something to work in. And as I do that, it's going to even this up, and you're not going to see, anything unusual. It's going to actually, I think, enhance the look of the blanket. Okay, so what we're going to start with, we're going to be doing what I call the 4-post cable. This is worked with treble crochets on the row that's facing you, which is this row here. And then this is I'm calling this a wheat stitch, which is a combination of the cable here is exactly like the cable, the 4-post cable. But when it's worked alongside this other 4-post cable that's kind of worked in reverse, you get kind of this effect. Okay. Then we're going to do 2 more DCs, double crochets working through the top loops, and then we're going to do another 4-post cable. So that's kind of like a recurring motif. This will happen on this end. It will happen again in the middle of the blanket right here, and then past the honeycomb, and then it happens again at the end, and I think kind of gives it a nice cabling effect. Okay, now in between those rows of cables is what I call the honeycomb stitch, which again is just more of the same as far as using treble crochet cables in different ways. Actually, you're going to find this is remarkably similar all the way across. Okay, so I wanted to give you a vision of where we're headed ultimately. And I will say that once you establish this pattern and you know what you're doing after probably 2 to 3 rows, you can almost throw the pattern aside and just finish it however, finish it to the length by just continuing in these patterns. Okay, let me go ahead and let's get back. All right. Now I'm going to begin this by working a double crochet in the first stitch and in the second stitch. Notice I'm working through the top loops. That's the only time you're going to work through the top loops are the stitches in between the cables. Now we're going to work a 4-post cable. I'm going to skip the first 2 stitches here, or the next 2 rather, do a treble crochet, and I'm going to do 1 more treble crochet, now I'm going to work in front of these 2 stitches over the 2 stitches that I skipped. 1, 2. Okay, so we have our 4-post cable. Now we're going to do 2 double crochets through the top loops. 1, 2. Let me pause. I'll show you what I have so far. Okay. Now the next stitch we're going to do is the wheat stitch, which again is more of the same. I'm going to skip 2 stitches. I'm going to treble crochet, front post treble crochet around the next 2 stitches. And this is the part that's a little tricky. It's something that I've come up with and I really enjoy doing. I'm going to work in these 2 stitches, but I'm going to work behind the 2 that I just worked, but I'm still going to make them front post. And this is how you do that. You just put the needle, or the hook rather. See how I'm working front post, but I'm working them behind the 2 stitches that I just worked. It's a little tricky at first. You want to make sure that you are going around the right stitch. Okay. Now for the next 2, I'm going to work another cable just like this one. I'm going to skip 2. Okay. Now this time I'm going to work in front of the 2 stitches that I skipped, or in front of the 2 stitches I just did, and work over the 2 stitches that were skipped. This is all written out hopefully very clearly in the free pattern available through Cascade Yarns. Okay, let me straighten that up a little bit. Now I'm going to double crochet in the next 2 stitches, working through the tops. These are more like spacers. Now we're going to come to the honeycomb, which is going to look surprisingly like the stitches we've already done. Skip 2, Again, front post, front post, treble. Now you're going to be forming V's as we go along here, and so we're going to start out by working the next 2 stitches behind the stitches we just worked, but yet they're still front post cables. So we do this just like we did the weed stitch. Okay, and then we're going to skip 2 stitches, get a front post, treble in the next 2, pull some more yarn off here, and then we're going to work so let me show you. This beginning of the honeycomb stitch looks exactly like the weed stitch for now, but this is going to change as we work the following rows. Okay, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to skip 2. Two trebles. Now I'm going to work behind these 2 stitches, but yet make them front post. So if you can see how I'm doing this. It's a little tricky at first, but once you build up a little bit of muscle memory in your fingers, it becomes automatic. Now speaking of fingers, these hands, the left hand, for left-handers, if you're left-handed, you can watch the reverse image, and just every time I say right hand, think left. If I say left, think right. But anyway, use the hand that's the non-dominant hand to kind of guide where the hook is going. So I'm actually using these fingers to tell me where the hook needs to be. And even though the left hand looks like it's not doing a whole lot, it's doing far more with the tension of the yarn and helping to guide the hook, mainly with the tall man finger here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this row, and I'll come back and show you what I have. Okay, for the next row, which would be row 3, we're going to start by working a double crochet through the top loops of the first 2 stitches. Now let me just explain too that this is just a sampling. So I just wanted to be clear on that. But as you go across, wherever you've had a cable that you're working over, you're just going to do a back post double crochet in each stitch in order as it comes about. We're not crossing anything. We're just simply working a back post double crochet across. Okay. Now, the only exception is when you come to these stitches here that are in the middle, like spacers in between the cables, we're going to work through the top loops. Work a double crochet. Okay. Now when we come to these stitches, this is showing you the back side. Just simply work a back post double crochet all the way across. Okay. This is really, I think, kind of a relaxing pattern in that it has a lot of visual advantages once you get past a few rows and you establish, what your pattern is. And working the back row is just simply back post double crochet. Okay, let me finish this row and then we'll get back to you and show you what I have.